You can sit. Please bless us with some words of wisdom.
I should have turned off my camera like Amanda did.
Too late, sorry.
I feel inspired to pray to Lord Gauranga since I've been hearing your classes on him. So praying to Gauranga to help us be sincere and honest and tadatmik with each other and sincerely look for like answers and explore deeply into the truth that connects us all and like takes us deeper and deeper into this journey of love.
Jai Shri Sacinandan Gaur Hari Ki Jai. Shri Nam Prabhu Ki Jai. Satsang Ki Jai. Gaur Premanand Hari Hari Bo. Thank you. Thank you for those beautiful words, Svetadip Ji. Yeah, we are blessed to have Sri Gauranga in our lives. We are blessed to have each other. And we are blessed to be reuniting again, like we try to do every single week as part of our daily or weekly, if you will, commitment. No, hopefully not out of a sense of duty or obligation, but just out of a sense of, like once I remember talking with my friend Krishna Chandra Prabhu, and he was describing the path of Raga Bhakti as the path of fascination. And so I like that expression, right? You have the path of obligation and the path of fascination. No? So we want to pursue our goal, pursue divine love, pursue relationship and connection with everyone and everything, hopefully, out of fascination, at least on some level, right? Maybe in the beginning we start with a little bit more of obligation and fear and intimidation and fear of failure and what will happen if I do not do this or that, or if I'm not a perfect performer of the rule. But eventually, gradually, hopefully, yeah, it all will be replaced by an ever increasing, ever deepening sense of fascination, since we are trying to, we are attempting to approach the all attractive Krishna, the all fascinating. That's another way of saying, what does Krishna mean? Yeah, all attractive, but what does it mean, all attractive? Another way of saying it's all fascinating, right? So the object of our study, the object of our worship, the object of our life, and ultimately every breath is an all fascinating one. So yeah, we are all gathered here around the principle of fascination, right? So hopefully with this particular satsang and with everyone, but today with this one, we somehow or other can convey to each other an increased sense of wonder, astonishment, fascination, chamatkar, which keeps the whole thing, the whole process, the whole practice really living and breathing, right? It has to be a living and breathing tradition. No, it cannot be a, like, I don't know, suffocated and almost ready for retirement home tradition. It has to be fully alive, ever new, ever fresh. So yeah, I'm blessed to be in the company of you all. Some of you already visiting us for years and months or weeks, and some of you coming today for the first time. So each of you are equally welcomed and honored. So your presence is very cherished, since each one of you are bringing your own unique jewel of your individual existence to the table. So that adds a very particular, each of you are a spice that nobody else is, right? If you want to talk in terms of culinary, you say in English? Culinary top tattwa, so to say, each of us, each soul represents a very unique flavor, a very unique individual type of existence that adds to the masala of reality. And so we always celebrate the bringing forth any new spice to add flavor and nuance and depth and breadth to the masala of our satsang. So let's turn on the fire and let's start the cooking process. So we start becoming less and less raw and cook ourselves and become worthy of being offered for the pleasure of Bhagavan and Bhagavati. So anyhow, here we are in Argentina, as I think I told you, in a place called Cordoba, which is one of the many provinces in Argentina. We don't call them states by provinces, so there are like 27, if my geography lessons from childhood are not failing me now. And Cordoba is one of the main ones. So here we're having a retreat, weekend retreat mostly, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, with a small, intimate group of devotees and friends. Exploring some of the topics of radical personalism, since somehow the book has been recently translated into Spanish. So we are sharing the news over, so to say, over here of the two books translated into Spanish and exploring the possibilities of what it entails to live our life as a radical personalist. And today we have a morning discussion on vulnerability. So you can imagine how that went. It was vulnerable, so that was great. So looking forward to today's discussion. Also in a few hours I had a second one, so probably I may not overextend myself today, but we have time. I have in 2 hours another discussion on non-duality, the nature of the non-dual nature of reality, and how because of that we are invited to see, especially in this case, material creation as sacred, basically. So that's it. A few words of preamble, but I'm seeing already 4 raised hands, and those raised hands are vibrating. I can see them, even though they're digital hands. So we'll start with the first one, which is the one from Katie from Minnesota, United States. Welcome, Katie, and you can unmute yourself.
Well, everyone, pranams Maharaj, pranams everyone. So nice to be here with you today. Maharaj, so I'm finding myself in kind of a strange chapter of life that I've never experienced before.
Welcome to the club. Yes. Here you are. You're at the right place, basically. We all seem to be that odd club here. Somehow. So interrupt. Just want to make it clear that it's a collective sharing here.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could offer any thoughts on how I can even approach this chapter or understand it. I'm really burnt out and like exhausted and finding it hard. I'm not really inspired by anything anymore. And I think one of the reasons is, I've might be so-called a midlife crisis, as some people might refer to it, but I think I've gotten to the middle of my life and I'm not where I thought I would be or expected I would be, both if we want to make this decision, both materially and spiritually. I'm just not where I would want to be. And so I'm uninspired and I'm exhausted, and it's weird. I don't really know how to think about this or what to do or if this is ever going to end. And I don't really have any way of knowing that, but what do I do while I'm here? Any thoughts would be appreciated.
Okay. How not to kill ourselves in the midst of a midlife crisis. I mean, of course, I'm not saying that our dear Katie is suicidal today, but I'm just mentioning that just in case. Not for Katie, but I mean, sometimes those ideas may come. And I'm mentioning that why, because whenever and I remember once I was talking with a devotee, and the devotee said, every time someone feels suicidal, and again, I'm not saying that anyone here is feeling suicidal, but just see the point I want to make. Whenever we may feel suicidal, we feel that we want to die. And actually something needs to die, but it's not us, right? So when we conclude about suicide, we are concluding in the wrong way what needs to die. Of course, something needs to die, but we have to be careful about ascertaining what's that thing, and it's never us. So I'm mentioning that in the sense that situations like this, and of course I'm just, Katie, saying some words based on what you are telling me, but I know there is such a how to say, an abundance of nuance and detail about it that I'm not aware of. So I don't want to play omniscient Swami from the distance here. So I can only be general, I mean, in one sense, because I know that these situations are very specific, very personal. And of course, we can have more time to talk about it in a more personal way, private way, but here we can just say so much. So, yeah, I will say that first of all, few things. Again, first of all, I'm sorry if that sounds redundant, but what I say first, like, welcome to the club. You are not alone. No, this is not only you going through that. This is not the first time this happens in human history. Not to downplay your personal experience, not to say, oh, you're going through that. We are all gone through that. So, and we have gone through worse than you. So don't complain. I'm not saying that. I'm not unvalidating your experience. I'm just saying we have to be careful not to over-isolate ourselves in moments like this, because the tendency maybe is in that direction, to isolate, to alienate, to like over-identify with that particular chapter, as you are saying, even wondering, will this ever end? And of course, it will end. I will say that all of us have gone through some similar dark tunnel chapter of our life. And yeah, in those moments, it feels like it's never ending. But after some time, we look back and it always ended. No? Of course, maybe it started again after some time in a different nuance with a different shade of black, but it's not never ending, right? So, and I will say that listening to what you said, again, I can just offer some complementary feedback based on what you've shared. They're sharing the notion of dark night of the soul, which of course is very, very typical. Those moments in life where we feel, okay, there's no meaning, there's no purpose. I don't even feel I cannot make sense of my practice, of my life. I don't feel Krishna at all. It seems he's not there. It seems everyone disappeared from planet Earth. Even myself, it seems that I'm not here. I'm not feeling myself. It's like an hyper numbness of the whole of existence or something like that. And or as you say, like exhaustion, like, come on, give me a break. Give me a break of reality. Reality, give me a break. And again, sometimes, again, there are so many factors that can be there. I cannot here conclusively say, yeah, it's a midlife crisis for sure, or it's this, or it's that, because it may be many things at the same time. No, we are a complex scenario ourselves. No, so many influences and things that need to be expressed, things that are not happening, things that are happening. Of course, you yourself, I will say in part, started to answer your own predicament or conundrum by referring to this idea of, well, probably I am at a point where I maybe have an idea of how both my material and spiritual life will unfold to this point of the journey. And you know what? It's not happening. And it can be frustrating, and we can feel like, even like, I don't know, we have lost our time, or we didn't end where we wanted, where we expect. So maybe there is some some mistake with life itself, or the system is not working. What's going on here? I'm not working. And many times we enter into this space like, okay, who is wrong here? No, who is to blame? It's me. It's the practice of bhakti. It's Krishna. Are my parents. It's my childhood trauma. It's my ex-boyfriend. It's my new boyfriend. Whatever, right? Whatever may be whatever we fill the blanks in with. And of course, it's not about blaming anyone, right? The whole thing is about not blaming. The whole game is not a blaming game. It's okay. It's a game of acceptance, right? Of accepting life, learning to accept things as they are. Probably, yes, the life you are in now is not the life you thought you will be in, I don't know, 20, 30, 15 years ago. And I can tell you, and I'm talking for everyone else here without knowing your opinion, but I know what I will say is true, which is each one of us may have had an idea of where we'll be 20, 30 years ago. Nobody of us is at that place now. Nobody. Raise your hand if I'm saying madness here. Okay, Sumuki says that I'm mad. Okay, why? Okay, I get the point. You thought I was going to say something else. So I'm saying that again, just to normalize unpredictability, so to say, right? Like the rules to play life are not just make a plan at 12, 13, 25, and see that unfold magically and fitting into perfectly into every single box that you idealize and expect it to happen. That's a recipe for misery. Step after step. And of course, we try hard and we insist and we fail and we insist again. and it doesn't work like that. It's not it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. And sometimes we need to go through a few crises to learn that lesson. We need to really see our world sometimes shattered in pieces, losing absolute control, going through total chaos and experience suffering and betrayal on considerable levels for us to realize, okay, I'm not in control here. That's not my role. Thank God, right? Imagine if my role is to be in control of reality. That's a little bit too much. So I'm saying these words again, thinking about whatever situation you may be in. And for me, the most important thing is not so much like, how do I get out of this place as soon as possible? Because sometimes that's the tendency, and it's understandable, right? Nobody wants to be in a place where I feel bad. So I'm not saying let's organize a party and celebrate Katie's present chapter, so to say. But at the same time, we are there for some reason. I mean, doesn't mean that we don't need to change anything. Something needs to be changed for us to appreciate what's going on. But many of the things that are going on do not need to change. We just need to change our perspective of those things. So there lies, of course, the usual challenge for all of us, which is, as Srila Siddha Maharaj will say, I'm sorry if I sound repetitive, but change your angle of vision. You cannot change the environment. The environment is friendly, so to say. And if we are perceiving this is not friendly, I don't like this has no meaning or purpose, we have to recalibrate. And that, again, that entails some type of death. That's why I'm using this idea of dying when I say something needs to die, but it's not us. So something really, sometimes, really something needs to die in us, in a certain way of seeing things, of feeling myself, of projecting myself, and it will be excruciating sometimes. It will feel like death. It's not no joke. So it's hardcore chapters. It's intense. So I think it's important that we also normalize this type of situations. It's not like let's try to avoid it as much as we can. Again, now nobody wants to go there forcibly, but sometimes we need to go there. We need to visit death. We need to visit the cemetery, so to say. So I imagine it's hard, it's uncomfortable, it's uncertain, can be frustrating. So I think it's good to all this is inviting us to establish a deeper conversation with ourselves and of course with Krishna in terms of, okay, it's frustrating, I'm exhausted. Why? No, where's that frustration coming from? Of that exhaustion? Try to like reach a new layer of depth in the conversation. Like usually we have a conversation with our own selves on a daily basis with God on a certain level, and when things kind of collapse on that level, we are invited to ask those same questions on another level of depth. So now we discover the meaning that we were not able to discover on the more superficial level, so to say. So I will say that, no, again, I don't know the details of the situation, but I just kind of speak from myself, having gone through something like that a few times, and there are days that pass without much meaning and purpose. I know that we cannot just like force purpose to come from each day. Sometimes there are days that I was not able to find purpose. I know there is purpose. I have experienced that undeniably so many times in such an overwhelming way. So I cannot deny that either. I think it's important to hold on to those moments where we really felt overwhelming, undeniably clear, self-evident, self-effulgent meaning, purpose, all the things that connection. I think it's important to find connection. That's a good word here. No, even when we don't find meaning and purpose, at least establish connection with someone else, someone else's. Like I'm feeling that you are trying to do now, and I deeply appreciate that. I mean, that's super courageous what you've done, actually. Like, no, I mean, it's very connected to what we were talking today here in the morning on vulnerability. Like you're stepping into the scenario here in front of all of us and saying, hey, I'm in this situation. I mean, that's the first step to solving whatever needs to be solved, because you are taking the whole thing out of secrecy, so to say. I'm not saying that you are hiding that on purpose. I'm just saying we are exposing our stuff, hopefully in a safe space. We are being vulnerable, and exposing that is the first step to success, because whatever needs to be healed, whatever needs to be integrated, cannot whatever is toxic for us now thrives on secrecy, so to say. So whatever you expose, your fears, your lack of purpose, sometimes even it may be, I don't know, again, I don't want to assume for you, Katie. I'm just at one point talking with you, but at one point I'm talking about all of us again. So it's because sometimes in those days when we don't feel any purpose or meaning, also we feel shame about ourselves. We feel useless. We feel we are a failure. We feel probably we are worthless. That can happen. Hopefully not, but that can happen, right? So shame, worthlessness, all that stuff thrives on secrecy. No, is fed the more we don't share those things with others. But when we are able to do that in a safe, vulnerable space, that starts to lose its grip on us. So I'm saying all this just for hopefully you can also appreciate, like, okay, something's happening, something is going on now, some positive attainment is going on. The fact that you were able to, the fact that you have a Sangha to share that with, I mean, that's in itself a lot. No, I mean, just to bring some positive content into the dark room, so to say. Because sometimes when we are on a hard time, it gets easier to just go to the negative thoughts and go to the negative prospect and lose sight of the gifts that still remain there in the dark room, in the dark night of the soul, right? So when I'm going through my own dark night of the soul, it's healthy to be reminded, okay, I have a family, I have a tribe, I have brothers, I have sisters, I have people I can be vulnerable with, I have people who appreciate me being vulnerable. There's people who will embrace me and nourish me in my imperfection, in my crisis. I can stand naked, so to say, in front of them, and they're like how to say, honoring that. That's kind of a miracle, actually, to be honest, to have such those gifts of friendship and brotherhood and sisterhood in our life. That's not easy, cheap attainment or gift, right? So I think it's important to spend some time like appreciating. And I'm not saying you are not doing that, of course. I'm just making the point clear of how sometimes we need to a little bit by force bring more positive content in those chapters of negativity, and see how, even not to deny the negativity, not to escape from the negative, but to realize, oh, even in the midst of such a dark tunnel, such a dark night of the soul, all these shining gifts that give purpose to my life stay there with me. And actually they become even more present in a very unique way in that particular chapter. But probably I had lost sight of that, and I was just too over concentrated with the darkness. But when in the context of that darkness, we are able to turn our face toward those gifts that make our life worth living, then you can embrace those gifts without denying the darkness, but in the context of that darkness. And then comes that very important, unique synergy, like combination, like you're integrating the darkness, you're accepting, acknowledging, and going through all that, but you are doing that in a sacred space, in a blessed space. So the end result of putting those things together is you will acquire very deep lessons, very deep wisdom, lots of gifts and revelation. It may take time, again. We have to be a little patient also. But it's happening. It's already happening. It's already happening. I can see in this precise moment also many of you showing your presence and your empathy. And so just the very fact of being able to share my Kurukshetras with others, so to say, and having those others validating my battles and struggles and being there with me. That's what I need to gain strength and pick up the bow again, pick up the Gandiva and embrace my battle. We have to do the battle ourselves, but we need our orchestra accompanying us. I need to play the instrument myself, but the orchestra will be there backing up, themselves playing their own empathic strings, so to say, right? So anyhow, I don't know if any of this makes any sense or provides any sense of relief or hope, of meaning or empathy. Again, I don't like to reply to or to share in this context any type of like easy formulas, like, oh, you just chant 2 more rounds per day and that's it. Or to make you neurotic, oh, probably it's because you are so offensive that you're feeling like that. Because this shouldn't be happening. No, that's not, because sometimes I've heard those types of avenues, right? To the stigmatizing like box or to like whatever, like very reductionistic, very simplistic way of addressing the complexities of life. Instead of hopefully acknowledging it, life is complex, there is difficulty, there is pain, we are humans, we are on a journey, we are still a little bit messed up, we have so many beautiful gifts, still there is some way to go. We need to release, to let go, we need to die in so many levels, we need to surrender deeply, we need to live more in the present, we need to allow life to craft us and shape us instead of trying to make a whole in advance controlled experiment of how everything should happen. And sometimes it hurts to do that. There's sometimes so much ingrained patterns in terms of beliefs of how life should happen. So it's painful to deconstruct all those false myths. But all that is an art and hybrid also. All that is a glorious shading of all skin, so to say. No? All this is part of your rebirth. Again, it's painful to die, it's painful to be born. No? You can see when a baby is born, it's crying, the mother is screaming, it's all painful. But at the same time, you will ask them eventually, say, oh, that's the most beautiful moment of my life. And it's like, but it was so painful. Yes. I say, yes, a paradoxical yes. Now you can see behind my back here, you look at my finger where I'm pointing it. You see there? Yes. Om. Yes. Paradoxical yes. So hopefully moments like this, which may be the hardest, the most dark, the most difficult, at least I had that experience in the most challenging, complex chapters of my life where I have no clue what's going on with my life. As you know, what suddenly I don't know who I am, where I belong, what I'm doing, what will happen to what I have to do with my life tomorrow. Complete uncertainty. And it was evident that I had no control over the issue, and I just had to increase my my life of prayer, my surrender, and my letting go. And when, as proportionately to how much that happens, Krishna proved to be so much present there. And he revealed so many things and so much inspiration. And in one sense, we are all here today as a result of that. Literally, it's his responsibility. So, and that do not happen only to me. It's not like, oh, that happened to you, Maharaj, because you are Maharaj. No, I'm not. I'm who am I? Everyone is who it is, and you can go through something like that also. But yeah, being open to how to say, to how life looks when we are not in control, which is always, by the way. Right? As we were today in the morning quoting, in the context of talking about vulnerability, we're quoting Brené Brown, and she will say, like, vulnerability means to have the courage to show up when we don't have any control over the outcome. That feels vulnerable, because when we have some control, we know how things will go on, will happen. Okay, it feels safe to show up. But what when I don't have a clue what will happen? And still I show up. And still I show up for prayer. And still I show up for my family, for my sangha. And still I come with my heart in my hands. So that's vulnerability. And from that type of vulnerability comes empowerment. That's an axiomatic truth. And you're doing that, to be honest. I'm not here doing any flattery. So yeah, it's just a matter of time to witness the results of that. But at least try, just to conclude, because of course we can go on, there's so much to say about this, but try to conclude that there's nothing wrong in one sense with what's going on. There's not, as simple as that sounds, there's nothing wrong with you going through that. Of course, there may be something to learn and grow and improve, of course, but not like to the point of what's wrong, who is wrong, but just what's to learn. Like orient the whole search positively. What's the gift here? What's the gift in the darkness? What's the gift that is trying to be given to me now? Which are the gifts that I have already? Don't lose sight of those. And on that foundation, what's the gift that now is trying to be given to me? Instead of what's wrong here? What needs to stop happening? Something like that. So yeah, I'm trying to articulate the journey in a way that proves meaningful. I don't know. What do you think, Katie? A few more words you would like to share?
Thank you, Maharaj. Yeah, that was really helpful. I wrote down like 6 questions just to keep relating to myself and relating to what's happening, so that I can just have a relationship going with my life and this chapter, and have the communication going. So I've got things like, what's the gift that's being given to me? What's the value and the purpose of this time? What needs to die? What needs to transform? Where's the frustration and the exhaustion coming from? And yeah, so those are all really helpful. And thank you so much for saying that, there's nothing wrong with this. I kind of knew that, but like just hearing you say that with such assuredness really made me feel better. So thank you.
Okay, some little light is already coming through the tunnel. As they say, the light comes through the crack. No, so being vulnerable is presenting myself in a cracked way. That allows the light to get in, and yeah, there's nothing wrong fundamentally with any of us ultimately, right? In Krishna's eyes, we are wonderful. So we have to remind ourselves of that. That's how Krishna is looking at us. At this precise moment, Katie, Krishna is looking at you as a just beautiful, wonderful heart, like each one of you. So we don't have to forget how Krishna is looking up on us right now, right here, and try to extend some of that graceful glance onto ourselves and onto others, and on that foundation, of course, growing whatever needs to grow. But yeah, thank you, and I appreciate your point that you wrote those questions, and of course allow yourself to invoke more questions, because sometimes it's more about, as you said, not so much, okay, Maharaj, give me the conclusive answer and let's bring closure to this issue and let's move on. And it's not, no, let's open the door and bring questions that bring a dialogue and a conversation with myself, probably. Instead of give me an answer to stop having my, no, let's bring proper questions, no, accurate questions, creative questions, important questions, and let's start a deeper conversation. And let's trust entering into that conversation with our own selves. It's important. Questions can bring so much light. And again, this is not only limited to Katie, it's just about each one of us at so many stages of the journey. So it's beautiful and glorious that we can go through that together, basically. And that's for me the most important thing, not so much how perfectly you are performing today or not. For me, the beautiful thing is bring your mess to the tribe, so to say, and we can accompany each other in that. That's a real glory for me. Not so much perfection, performance, and all that stuff. That's not real, just to be. So mess is there, and the fact that we know what to do with our mess, and on some level at least, that in itself is the solution to the problem, the very beginning of that. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so it was Katie. Today in the morning was someone else here being very vulnerable. So Krishna is really teaching me a lesson about Swami Padmanabha. You should also take initiative and be more vulnerable in your life. I'm receiving lots of of insight today for my own case. So thank you. Yeah. Okay. We travel with flight suddenly from Minnesota to Nelson, New Zealand, with our dear Patrak from his geodesic dome. Beautiful place, beautiful memories from there. So please, Patrak, you can unmute yourself, whatever you would like to share today.
Good morning, Maharaj. Good morning to everybody. So I'm not doing that well in public forums. That's why I wrote my question down, but I think it might tie even into Katie's question. So here it goes. My understanding is that all our suffering results from avidya, from ignorance. Lust, greed, anger come from avidya. However, since Krishna is everything and everything is Krishna, and we, the Jivas, a minute part of him, does Krishna also possess these negative feelings and characteristics? Or did the Jivas develop these by themselves independent from Krishna because of avidya?
Okay. Thank you, Patrak. And thank you for being vulnerable and exposing yourself in a live forum. I know how challenging that can be. So we all deeply appreciate your bringing this topic to the table. Great question. So, of course, when we say we have to always be very, I will not have to say careful, but very nuanced when we say things like Krishna is everything. Because yes, in one sense, yes, he's everything. But remember that our philosophy is Veda Aved, right? So Veda Aved means one and different. So it's always a simultaneous coexistence of these two principles. So Krishna is everything, but not in every sense of the term. Because if Krishna is everything, basically means I'm Krishna, right? Because I'm part of everything. So how much can I say I'm Krishna? Well, on one part of the equation of the Veda Abed, which means difference and non-difference, one of the equation, the Abed equation, I can say I'm Krishna. Because nothing exists separate from Krishna. No? That's the whole idea of non-duality. No? At least our idea of non-duality. No? Recently, I don't want to digress from my words, but the other day, I saw a conversation between two Advaita Vedantins. And of course, for them, their idea of non-duality is what we call radical non-dualism. Like at the end, there's only Brahman. That's the only way they talk about non-duality. Everything else is dualistic for them. So they will refer to our practice as dualistic bhakti, for example, because still you retain a sense of two, God and the soul. But so they won't consider, interestingly, our tradition like non-dual, although we consider it so. Because again, non-dual doesn't mean just everything is Brahman at the end. Non-dual means everything exists inseparably from the center. So in that sense, everything is Krishna, in the sense that everything is inseparable from Krishna. But in another sense, everything is not Krishna. No, in the sense that we, each one of us, have our own will and agency and existence. Of course, we are not separate from Krishna, but we are not Krishna in every sense of the term. So you see my point. So every time we need to bring these two ideas and keep the two of them operating at the same time. One and different. Krishna is everything, but not everything is Krishna, if you want to put it that way. Again, these are words, right? We are using words to say all the things, and they are limiting in one way. But because I'm saying, if you play the idea, okay, everything is Krishna, then again, as you say, the implication, if you play out that idea in a simplistic way, will be, okay, Krishna then has lust or greed or this or that, as we have it, or probably, as you mentioned, Patrakti, okay, Krishna may have all that stuff, but in a way that is different from us, in a way that is free from avidya, which I will agree with that. That's fine. That's fine for me. And actually, there have been some acharyas, some teachers of our tradition who have explained that Krishna has lust, but not as a selfish, self-centered desire, but as romantic passion, which is totally devoid of selfishness. But you call that lust. You call that kama. The love of the gopis is called kamatmika bhakti. Yeah. Kama includes the word kama. Who's very atmika, who's very atma, whose very essence is kama, desire. And again, sometimes our teachers are very careful about saying these things. Okay, Krishna also has lust, because until and unless we are beyond our version of lust, we won't be able to fully understand what will we mean by saying that God has lust. And we will probably filter, project, and get a totally distorted picture of the divine. So that's why our teachers are always very careful about talking in detail about that. Like once, just to give you an example, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was given a lecture, and he was famous for not talking in detail about, I don't know, God's lust. Let's put it that way. God's and the gopis' divine lust. And once someone asked him, "Oh, Guru Maharaj, can you talk about the intimate romantic interaction between Krishna and the gopis? Maybe you know the story." And he asked them, "Okay, I will talk tomorrow about that, but each one of you bring a brick." So everyone was like, okay. So each one, next day, they came with a notebook on one hand and a brick on the other hand. So now Prabhupada is trying to say, okay, now you put your hand on a brick and starts to rub your hand on a brick. So they started doing that, no? And he had them doing that for a long time, till their hands were about to be bruised, right? Before that, he was merciful, but he wanted to convey a lesson, and it had to be experiential. So at one point he stopped, not because they were also, he was seeing their faces, they were experiencing pain. So he said, stop, okay. So they're all waiting for the narration of the Madhurya Lila and all that. And so far their hands are being ruined, right? So Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta say, okay, so when you, in the same way, put your hands, most of them were men. So he said, when you put your hands on the breast of a woman and move in the same way and feel the exact same thing you're feeling now with the bricks, then you're qualified to hear in detail about the erotic pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So that was his way of making a point, try to get the point. That was his way of making a point of, like, you are not there yet, right? So, and if we talked about that too much, you will just filter all those narrations with your own experience of that, which is tinged with avidya, as you were saying, Patrak. Our teaching is that avidya is the actual problem, and all this kama, lobha, krodha, mada, moha, matsarya, all these old things, lust, greed, anger, illusion, envy, those are just like symptoms of what it means to be in avidya or in ignorance. So in one sense, there is no avidya, there is no ignorance in God. So therefore, it's not that he does not experience those symptoms, but he experienced them in an enlightened way. So he has greed. Narottam Das Thakur once comments on that in one of his songs, because he speaks about these 6 famous anarthas: kama, krodha, lobha, mada, moha, matsarya, lust, greed, and lust, anger, greed, the moha, matsarya, like illusion, and so on, envy. And he says, and he starts to give example how an enlightened being experiences all those things, right? Like, again, you experience lust in the form of passionate desire in the context of service. You experience greed. That's the qualification for Raganuga Bhakti, lobha, lulling. You experience anger when sometimes Prabhupada will say, if someone is attacking the enemies of Krishna, you will be angry. Of course, he will say quickly, am I not an enemy of Krishna yet? And so on and so forth, right? So Krishna himself experiences all those things, but in an enlightened way, in the context of his interaction, technically speaking, we will say, with his Swarup Shakti, right? And even avidya, of course, we won't say that Krishna is in avidya, that God is in ignorance, but there is some type of ignorance he goes through also. By the influence of what we might call yoga maya, when Krishna is immersed in the lila with the Brajavasis, he, in one sense, forgets he's God. No, that's a type of ignorance. Gyan Sunya Bhakti is called by our acharyas. Bhakti unencumbered by gyan, unencumbered by knowledge, even the knowledge that Krishna is God. So in Vrindavan, the Brajavasis are not aware that Krishna is God. I mean, that will be like prajalpa to suggest that in Vrindavan. If you enter Vrindavan and start talking with the Brajavasis and say like, hey, you know what? I think Krishna is God. They will say, stop talking prajalpa. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. He's not God. God is not I am Vishnu. He's in the altar. We worship him every day. Krishna is a playboy, liar, mischievous child that we're all in love with, by the way, but he's not God. Come on. Right? That's the Brajavasi psychology. Even when Krishna overtly shows Aishwarya, overtly shows like signs of godhood, the psychology of the Brajavasis all accommodates in a way that nourishes their intimacy and madhurya with him. There's no place for them to think of Krishna as God. And even, let's say, some acharyas will say, okay, even if you feel they were to conclude Krishna is God, that will be done in such a way that it will increase their feelings of intimacy for him. That's what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in Raghavarma Chandrika. He says, he's like the example of a mother whose child becomes the president of a country. So now the child became an adult, and the adult became a president. So now the president is giving a lecture, his first presidential speech of the campaign, so to say. He said, well, now I invite my mother to say a few words. Her mother will just run and embrace and say, my baby, I'm so proud of you. And all her vatsalya is like swelling, overflowing her. You follow my point? She's not becoming more like distance because, oh, now my son became a president. Her vatsalya is like her maternal feelings, like milk is pouring from her breast while embracing the president, right? So that's the example given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He said that's how Brajavasi psychology operates. Whatever Krishna shows some opulence, godhood, Aishwarya, their loving intimacy can only swell. And since Krishna, God in all his different forms, only exists to reciprocate to the love of his devotees, if the Brajavasis relate to him in that way, he relates to them in the same way. So if their love is in a way that they do not consider him being God, he accepts that love, which makes him forget his God. So that's a type of ignorance. Of course, we will call that divine ignorance, right? It's not an ordinary ignorance. It's not the same avidya we may go through. So we have to separate the two very clearly. And that's why some acharyas will say, okay, now we have to become very aware of how Krishna is God. So someday we can forget that. But first we need to be aware of that. First we need to get out of our avidya, which makes us think Krishna is not God, there is no God, I'm God. Even if we don't say it, we operate like if we were the center. So we need to dethrone that myth and become very established in, okay, there is a center and it's not me. And it's called Krishna, and it's this all attractive, fascinating, magnetic center that is attractive. And eventually, the more you go into all that fascinating, attractive thing, you lose sight of the fact that that person was the center and was God, and you just remain captured and charmed by the fascination of beauty and attraction and sweetness. So yeah, we could say that in his own way, in his own enlightened version, loving in the context of love, Krishna goes through lamentation, Krishna goes through crying, Krishna goes to desperation, Krishna goes through death-like symptoms in separation of Radha, Krishna goes through hankering and longing and greed and anger. If you study in the details of our God, so to say, and the daily dynamics, emotional dynamics of the Braja Lila, you see every single day Krishna going through all those feelings, all those emotions. That's why Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, of course, he speaks about rasa, Bhakti rasa, and the 5 main rasas, of course, are Shanta, Dasa, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. But in the context of those 5, there are 7 secondary ones, and which are those? There is fear, there's anger, there is astonishment, there is laughter, there is disgust, there is compassion, and so on. So all those things, both Krishna and the devotees experience in eternity in the context of their loving relationship. But again, all those emotions are very different from how we go through them now. So that's an important point to make. They are not entirely different, but they are considerably different. But they are different enough so we don't compare the two, but they are similar enough so we can relate to those from our personal perspective. So when we hear about compassion, love, friendship, maternal feelings, we have some idea of that. It's not that like I cannot relate to that at all. I don't have an idea what it means to be a mother, no, we have some idea. So on that foundation, then purifying, spiritualizing our emotional makeup, we can gradually get an accurate picture of what's actually going on in the hearts of enlightened beings in divine love, right? So what do you think, Patrak? Any thoughts? Do you agree? Something else you would like to share?
How can I not agree?
You can. You're free to disagree.
No, not at all. No. To make you not feel uncomfortable, your answer was, and then there's a blank, like always. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for showing up with your question. We appreciate it. Yeah. Okay, let's continue. Let's go to New Zealand, take a very quick flight to Ireland. And we are landing nearby Svetadev Radhika's house. She has something to share with us today.
Pranam Maharaj. Yeah, so this one maybe, I mean, not maybe, it seems very much related to what you were just speaking and maybe kind of continuation. We'll see. So just thinking, you were saying how Krishna is looking at us like, he's thinking, oh, we are so amazing and he loves us unconditionally. But because of our conditioning and past traumas, like we have this sense of fear, like also not just like our conditioning and traumas, like even when we begin the practice, we are often told like, to do things that's pleasing to Krishna, which automatically like makes us think that we do like very few things that's pleasing to Krishna and everything else is like not pleasing, so we might have this fear that like, we do something wrong and like, Krishna doesn't like it or something like that. So my question is, when this is the case, do we just accept that, like, this is how we feel and live that, or we we say to ourselves, no, this is not right. Krishna loves us, so like kind of try to like, force a change there, And also like other thing I was thinking is, you also talk about like how we are fearful of love. And I was wondering, like, is it something that we like, can catch ourselves, like, that, some things we do or like the way we think or whatever, like, oh, we're doing this because we are fearful of love. Like, because to me, it seems like everyone's looking for love, then how can how can we say that we are fearful of love? Like how to know that we're really fearful and how to change that?
Okay, so there are two questions somehow related. Let me begin with the second one. I wouldn't say that everyone is looking for love. I would say that love is the thing that everyone needs the most, but that doesn't mean that they are looking for that. Of course, we can say we are looking for other things, and we think that by getting those things, we will receive the fulfillment that only love can provide. And in that sense, we are looking for love indirectly. Okay, I can go with that one. But I wouldn't say that everyone is looking for love in a like conscious way. Because first of all, you have to know what is love. And most people do not have a clear idea of what's love. Again, everyone is looking for love in the sense that they're looking for a level of fulfillment that only love can bring. Okay, but that doesn't mean that you are looking for love consciously. Maybe it's a technical detail that I'm making here, and it's not very much important. But it's not that many people, you speak with them and say, are you looking for love? And maybe even if they say yes, when you ask them, so what's love? And they will give who knows which definition. And you may say, oh, that's not love for me. So I'm not looking for that. I don't want to be looking for that. I mean, we use the term love so loosely, We love chocolates, and we love Krishna, and I love my car, and I love my puppy, and I love my whatever, my new pen. But if you love everything in that way, whether you are an Uttam Bhagavat that loves everything connection to God in an absolute platform, or probably you are not loving at all, right? So there are different ways to talk about this, because to be honest, let's be honest. For example, someone who is looking to merge into Brahman, technically speaking, they're not looking for love, because there's no love in Brahman. There's nobody to love. There's nobody else. There's not even a sense of experience, because to experience you need an experiencer and an object of experience. But in Brahman, those differences are gone. So what to speak about love, which is always a reciprocal interaction. So someone who is spending the whole life invested in a practice to attain that goal, they're very aware that they are not looking for love. And in one sense, they can attain that goal and remain there in eternity without love. So how much we can say everyone is looking for love? Just throw in some ideas for you to make you think alternatively about these quotes. No? In general, we can say, yeah, everyone wants to be fulfilled. Everyone is looking for purpose. Everyone's looking for belonging, for connection, even though they know it or not. And all that finds its place fully in the greatest form in love. Okay, I get that. But again, we can say many different things in that connection. Right? So that's one thing in connection to that. But when I say that we fear love, and that's why I'm saying not everyone is looking for love, because if the more we start to define love for what it actually is, the more probably most of us will start to tremble. Because love is no joke. Love demands, just put it this way, and even with, I won't use any heavy words. I was just, love needs to be an absolutely free and voluntary act. So that requires you to be fully responsible for your choices. That, for most people, that's terrifying. Most people do not want freedom, interestingly. I mean, we say everyone wants freedom, but when you give freedom to people, most people do not want to take it. They will say, no, you decide for me. I don't want to decide for my life. I've seen that a lot. So many times we just want to be told what to do, how to think, on some level at least. Of course, I'm not saying everyone wants to be in jail and be a prisoner. They don't want freedom. I'm not saying that. But the full extent of freedom that is required for love with all capital letters to happen, that requires a training in courage and responsibility and agency. So you step into that world courageously, voluntarily. So it takes time. That's why in the beginning, love we can talk about love in a more general way, but when we enter into the details of the implications of love, how that takes shape. So we don't cheapen the idea. That's my point with all this. So we don't talk loosely about love, because that's not honoring the goal. Love is the ultimate goal of life. No? Love is not something easy to attain. Deep love, divine love. That's why, in part, why I wrote my first book, trying to make the point, we don't have that yet. It's not something so cheap that, yeah, I already have that. And it's there somewhere, but it's not there at the same time. It's there, but it's not active. How can, if it's there, that's so intense, that's so powerful, that's the driving force of everything. If it's fully there, you will be driven mad in the good sense of the term by love. So we don't want to dilute, to water down our highest ideal. So it's safest to speak of love in a realistic way, in a way that is challenging, not on purpose for the sake of challenge, but just it will invite us to die 100 deaths and more before lunch, as Bhakti will say. So yeah, now I'm reading Prema Samput from Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, and that's a treatise on love, and it's an analysis of what Radha feels in her heart for Krishna and the intensity of emotions and what it, and if you are minimum honest and to the minimum, you are moved to tears by reading that and realizing this is such a noble thing. No, I mean, such a noble thing that A, I don't have it, but B, I want to have it. Right? So it's these two things. It's not like, oh, this is so high that it's not for me and too far. In one sense, I'm not there. I want to be honest and realistic, but at the same time, it's such a dignifying substance that I cannot but try to dedicate the rest of my eternity in pursuing that. So for me, at least, that's, and according to what I've learned from our teacher, that's like the ideal combination, not to, so say, full rush where angels fear to tread. I cannot rush into love and ascertain myself in that realm. Like, yes, I'm there, I have it. Let's talk about it in detail. In Prema Samput, even they are saying just trying to talk about love, that's nonsense. No, Prem. Now for us, love ultimate is Prem. And Sri Radha is telling Krishna, the moment you try to deliberate about Prem, you no longer have Prem. Prem is gone. It's not a subject of deliberation. It's way beyond all those faculties. It's something else. It's not what you think it is yet. So anyhow, and that's why we are fearful again, because it's unknown on one level. It's a degree of dedication that hopefully is charming for us. So that's for me the point. It may be scary, but it should be charming. So that's the point. It's not that there's a problem with love because I'm being terrified of love. If I'm terrified of love, then I need to adjust something in me so it becomes fascinating, charming, attractive, possible, because it's possible. As high as that is, it's possible. Don't lose sight of, again, the grace, the principle of grace. The fact that we can be talking even about this, mumbling about some thoughts about that shows that some miracle is happening. So, but I mean, if we are terrified of love, proportionately to the presence of avidya, again, in our life, going back to the topic of avidya, when we are in ignorance of who we are, when we build an identity based on what we have, what we do, and when love comes to shatter all those categories and invite you to release and to surrender and to just flow into the unpredictable call of the flute, it's terrifying for those who have separate agenda. So it's terrifying to burn all your agendas. And that's why it's a gradual process. Krishna understands how terrifying, he can see how scared we are. No wonder at the beginning, middle, and end of the Bhagavad Gita, he repeats the word Masuchaha, which means don't fear. Don't fear, because he knows we are freaking out of fear when he plays the flute. When Krishna plays the flute in Vrindavan, nobody's fearful. Oh, the gopis just run away. But I mean, that's another category of existence. For us to feel that fascination with the clarion call of the flute, we need first to sarvopadi vinirmuktam, says the scripture, anyavilasita shunyam, jnana karmadi navritam. In the context of bhakti, we have to release, to let go so many layers, shed so many skins. And again, that's not a problem. When I say these things, don't feel like, oh, why, Maharaj? Why I have to do that? Why so long? Why you complain? All that is part of your love journey. All parties, and your avisar. In Sanskrit, avisar is a term for the love journey. Like Krishna plays the flute, and the gopis run into avisar, which is like the running for the meeting, the love meeting. So in one sense, we may not be in that same type of avisar, but in one sense, we are in a love journey. Still terrified, still trembling, still fear, still running back and forth. We run after the flute and we run away from the flute then. There are days and days. but still Krishna keeps playing the flute. So that's our hope. Our hope is that Krishna is an uninterrupted flute player. No. Hopefully you never open an altar and the flute is missing there. Or Krishna has his two arms instead like this, he's on the side with the flute like, I'm fed up. I'm just called you enough times. No more, please. Give me a break. No. He's always like this, right? Sri Radha is always like this. Mahaprabhu is always like this. So they are always giving blessings, calling us, raising us. It's non-stop. Their dispensation is uninterrupted. So we may be fearful back and forth, but still the invitation remains open forever. So that should be our hope. But yeah, let's not cheapen love. Let's not fall into the temptation of concluding that we attain love, we know about love. Again, the symptoms of someone who has love is that they feel they have no love. That's what the scriptures say. That's the paradoxical nature of love. The moment you try to assess yourself in the realm of love, you're out of there. That's why love requires the utmost humility. That's why Sanatana Goswami said, Dainya and Prem, humility and love are cause and effect of each other. The more love, the more humility, the more humility, the more love, and so on. You go to Vrindavan, nobody there will feel, oh, we love Krishna. They want to love Krishna, but they don't feel they love Krishna. And if someone like a foreigner visitor, like Narad Muni comes, they will say, oh, there comes an enlightened sage, a devotee, let's go and have a satsanga and be enlightened by him. That's their humility. They are the topmost sages and enlightened beings of the universe, but they feel, oh, we are just uncivilized tribal people. And we don't know what good fortune deeds we did in the past to have Krishna being born in our society. That just happens to be what it is. But they are not aware of their greatness. That's the price to pay. And they never think we got love. Mahaprabhu said, Na prema gandhasti darapi haru me. Mahaprabhu, the golden volcano of divine love. He'll say, in me there is no even the aroma of love, of prem. If someone has prem, it is Mahaprabhu. And if Mahaprabhu doesn't have prem, nobody has prem then. And he's saying he has not even the aroma of prem. But of course, he has so much love on volcanic, oceanic dimensions. But the paradoxical, subjective experience is, I have nothing of that. Because that's the nature of prem. It's so humbling. And there is so much more to be had that you can never assert yourself, I have it. I understood it. No? Again, if you read this Prem Samput, Krishna it's beautiful. You suggested reading. Krishna is falling at the feet of Radha. He's disguised as another gopi, as you may know the story. And he's saying how in the name of disguised as another gopi, he comes to criticize Krishna to Radha. But it's Krishna himself saying how little love he has for her and glorifying her love for him, but disguised as a gopi. So Krishna himself is saying that Krishna has so little love, he's such a this and that. And he really feels that in comparison to the greatness of Radha's love. And Radha receives that from Krishna, although disguised as a gopi, and she will reply, no, that's not like that. Actually, his love is this, and actually I'm not the one who has any love for him. So it becomes this kind of paradoxical competition when the more they assert their lack of love for each other, the more they are swelling in divine love for each other. So all contradictions resolved in love, but we have to enter there first, right? It's very mysterious. And at this point, said to the Radhika, I totally forgot your first question.
I really expected that. I kind of knew you would forget the first question.
Something regarding to how Krishna is looking upon us or something, but I don't remember the whole thing.
I was asking, if we feel fear, should we then try to change our change our mind about it, as in force ourselves to think that no, Krishna loves us, like, you know, we shouldn't be feeling fear, or like just accept that, okay, this is what it is now, and kind of, you know, like
Why not the
we,
two of them? Why not the two of them combined? I will put the two. First, accept that you're feeling that. Of course, first comes the acceptance. Okay, I'm feeling fear of love. I'm terrified about love. I accept it. And then, okay, why that I'm feeling that? What's the perceived risk, right? And try to discern and have some, so to say, mental discipline, just not being carried away by that fear and running away from love as much as you can, but just trying to bring back some sanity and sobriety. And actually, there's nothing to fear about in love. There's all gain, as Srila Maharaj will say. First, we think all risk, no gain. Then the more risk, the more gain. Then eventually, no risk, all gain. But we have to preach to ourselves in that way. So there is a place for both. No? First, for accepting whatever I'm feeling, but not just staying there. Okay, I'm full of fear. So what? I will allow fear just to possess me as much as it can? No. So then enter into a conversation, no? Manasiksha, as Raghunath Das Goswami will say, preaching to the mind, like, okay, why I'm feeling fear? What's the what I'm fearful of? What's the perceived risk? Like try to like flesh out the whole thing, right? Because fear kind of frozen us, or no, frozen or freezes us. So we cannot move. That's the exact opposite of love, which is a constant movement and flow. So yeah, there is place to not to force myself to not have fear, because you cannot just like press a button and okay, I left fear, but enter into a conversation with that fear. Because behind fear, there's something else. Again, okay, there's fear. Fear of what? Fear of this. Why I'm feeling fear of this? I'm called to release. To release what? And what if I release that? And what if I do not release that? And trying to, again, to flesh out the whole thing, and you can see clearly what's actually taking place. And it's not just a ball of fear in front of us, like terrifying us, and we just run away. So yeah, we have to confront the dragon. The more we confront the dragon disappears. That's the paradox of the heroes and heroines' journey. So the more we are willing to confront the dragon, it no longer holds sway upon us. So, and the first thing is to accept there is a dragon there. There's a fiery dragon called fear, fear of love. That's a particular dragon. You name it, even. You name it loudly if it helps. And the moment you do that, the dragon starts to wane. No? And then the more you start to flesh that out and show that I have no actual reason to be terrified about love. And the more you bring proper understanding of God's compassionate nature, unconditional love, and this and that, and you go to the experiences of being fully accepted in a very profound way, at that point, the dragon just became a worm or whatever, became a butterfly. No, that's even better. Yeah. Anyhow, I hope that helps. Does it help?
very much, Maharaj. So beautiful. It was, I mean, all that you shared about love earlier, like, was just amazing. I mean, really so beautiful. I mean, no wonder you forgot my first question. And especially like the part that, you know, I mean, something that I forget often is like kind of taking like love for granted, you know, like taking it lightly, like you were saying that we know what it is. Just when you were saying, no, we don't know what it is, it's like our highest ideal, you know, so kind of, yeah, seeing it that way and being curious. I think like if, yeah, my problem, at least I would say that, is forgetting that, you know, if I'm able to remember and like be curious, I think that would be nice.
Yeah,
Thank you
that's
so
what
much.
thank you. That's why all wisdom traditions suggest this. We have all to become like children, right? Christianity says that, but also the Vedas say that you have to become like a child. Eternally curious, that's the point, like eternally present, eternally open to wonder, never like asserting yourself arrogantly, concluding about things. In one sense, there is no closure for children. There's a permanent disclosure of everything. So yeah. Okay, last raised hand of today. We have a few more minutes. So again, from Ireland, long flight back to California. So hopefully you catch the jet lag quickly. And we are there with Rasangi.
But Maharaj, I saw that Trivikram Prabhu put a nice question in the chat, and I wanted to give him a chance to ask us question because I always ask questions, and I can hold on mine. Okay.
Okay. I haven't seen that. Sorry, I'm not checking the chat much.
I wouldn't worry about it. That's fine.
No, it's fine. It's no problem. Okay, here it is. It says like this from Trivikram Prabhu from New Zealand. Still long journey from Ireland, so no problem. Fasten your seatbelt. Question: where does the responsibility lie for finding the balance between a customized sadhana and a prescribed and formulaic approach to our spiritual life, which often leads to mechanical, catatonically repetitive, and a gradual decline in our inspired, faith-driven approach? Also, what psychology is underpinning the cowering into such a space, internal and external factors? The above often seems to be a concomitant reality to institutionally defined approaches to spirituality. Thank you. I don't have all the time I would like to have to answer us in greater detail. That's the price of presenting the question at the end. And I'm sure you didn't present, I'm saying you presented your question like more than an hour ago. So it's my mistake not to having seen that before. Sorry for that. But we share some words. Like with many questions, I've learned to say the main answer to the questions is it depends. No? Because you're asking, where does the balance lie between this and that? It depends. It depends each case. It depends each situation. There's no definitive answer, and that's part of the answer. No? I mean, in the sense that in the beginning, most people won't be able to have a customized sadhana. I mean, they just want to be given the magical formula, stick to it as loyally as possible, and that's fine. That's necessary. Now, it's like if you go and ask your 2-year-old baby, so what do you want to do with your life? Right? How you want to customize your prospect into the future, and the baby will just like look at you and looking like, where's lunchtime? Oh, I'm hungry, or I don't know. It's too much. It's too big of a question, right? So I will say that that's not a question for some period of time, and there's no fixed period of time for that either, because each person is in their own journey. So it may take more time for some, less time for others. And but eventually the need will come. No, I will say the need will come, and of course it depends a lot if we are practicing in an environment where these things are being talked about in advance, so to say. Even if you don't have the need, you already heard many times people saying at one point that need will come. So whenever the need comes, you are already validated somehow. You already know that you're not weird by having that need of personalizing your practice in some particular way. And again, at some point the need will come. I wouldn't say even it will come to everyone in the same way. Again, it's not like a one size fits all, and this will happen in this way exactly the same for everyone. Some people will continue without the need of customizing their practice, but they will find so much nuance in the external practice that is the same always, right? Some people will need to adjust some external aspects of the practice to experience more inner nuance, but some other people may just stick with the external, prescribed regime, but experience an ongoingly new world inside. So there is place for so much of this. It's not just, again, one way or the other. But of course, I will say that the main points, reading the rest of your question, is of course how to practice in a way that is not mechanical, in a way that is not repetitive, that is not catatonic, as you use that word. So again, we need to pay close attention to ourselves. We need to have lots of introspection. No, what I'm doing now, I'm chanting my japa. Really? Really? I'm doing that, or I'm doing something else? I have to have those moments of dialogue with me. I'm chanting the name of Krishna. Really? Or I have gone somewhere else. And if that's the case, I go back and try to, when I say this really, it's not with a whip in my hand and a guilt neurotic syndrome. It's just to pay attention to where I am while I'm doing all this, when I'm talking to you now. No? Am I giving you a very, how to say, copy-paste, unnuanced sets of words that are absolutely predictable, and I'm just like fulfilling my duty as a speaker, and I'm supposed to say this to this question? Hopefully not, but also hopefully I do not become addicted to an overdose of novelty. No, also I don't become addicted I have always to say something different and new to every question, because that's too much also. Sometimes I may need to pound the post of certain things that I know you heard 1,000 times. And here it comes 1,000 times one, right? So I think we need to develop the capacity to relate to the moment, to the necessity of the moment, to the spirit of the moment. What needs to take place in this moment for me to be present, for me to be alive, for me to be connected, to feel the connection. And again, each case is unique, is different. We are a unique case in different parts of the journey, and some parts of our journey we may go more, I don't know, and it's more interfaith, let's put it that way. And in some other parts we feel the need to go less interfaith, not because one is wrong, the other is better or worse. It's needs of the moment. Or sometimes we go more into, I don't know, Gaur Lila and then Krishna Lila, or more Siddhanta, or more Lila Katha, and there is place for all those things. But in some cases, there is not place for some of those things. So that's why also we need, hopefully, we have guidance, we have friends, we have elders, we have people with whom we can reflect back our own case and just not be ourselves the only source of feedback. No, that's a little sad and poor. That's probably the beginning of madness. Good definition of madness. You become your own source of feedback. No, you are your main point of reference. Wow, watch out. No, so it's healthy, it's sobering to have some other voices. Of course, not anyone, but voices from people you can trust, that you love, that you appreciate, and they know you and you know them. And that takes time, of course, to enter into those relational dynamics. But that's the whole principle of guru for me. Guru is not someone who gives you initiation and you never see him again, and now you have your name and I have my guru. It's people who is accompanying you. I mean, I'm not saying that cannot happen, but that needs to be complemented with some other elements coming from the guru department, with people that really accompanies us and knows us and nourishes us and inspires us and offers feedback, and that helps us to ascertain, okay, where I am on the journey, what do I need in this particular chapter? And by seeing their example of their words, I realized, okay, I'm being superficial sometimes, or I'm being evasive, or I may be being mechanical or not, whatever it may be the case. But we need some, again, points of reference to reflect back, so it's not just us. And that requires openness and vulnerability, right? To give ourselves in those relationships. And that takes time, no? To sit. So we were talking in New Zealand some weeks ago, to sit in circle with brothers and sisters, with family, and disclose our heart and let ourselves be known, show up, be seen by the others. and then do the same with others and receive the others. And that's hard work, but that's necessary. And that's sadhusanga. That's human relationships. If we skip that part, we cannot expect to have the rest of the equation crystal clear, so to say. It will all probably be muddy and fuzzy and confusing, and so yeah. That's what comes today, Trivikram. Just a brief answer. I don't know if that helps at all. I hope so. I trust something of value may come from that. But yeah, many times I know that sometimes I myself, it's kind of a self, how to say, it's a struggle at times, but sometimes with some questions, and I'm not criticizing at all the questions, but a question like this or many other questions, I will say probably sometimes it's 75% of the questions that I receive, which are all of them legal. I'm not criticizing the question, but many times, many of those questions, the answer is basically the one that I gave now. And sometimes I feel like, okay, I have to give again the same answer to this question. And I have to be okay with that myself. That's my point. Again, I don't need to give any fancy new concept. It's just like pounding the post of what I think is foundational on a very deep, basic grassroots practice of relationships and openness and
Thanks, Maharaj. Yeah, I think
that kind of
actually, I think largely, as you received the reply from Katie, it's just almost like, even though it may be an answer that you've given so many times, the same answer, individually we need to kind of feel that sort of validation in a sense, and it just gives us maybe some permission to make that call ourselves, rather than, like you say, it's not us making the decision on our own. We've got someone else we're bouncing it off. So just more in that spirit, really, I would say.
Yeah, and thank you. And that's totally fine. I think it's good that we both can like normalize the fact that, okay, I may be giving a similar answer to certain questions and pound on that post, and hopefully the rest is okay with that and understands we need that, and it's a form of validation and, as you say, empowerment and giving permission to be yourself and explore and individuate. So on both sides there is like acceptance of the fact that many of these questions may require the same answer or similar answers, and it's fine. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's not like, oh, I'm making Maharaj lose time, he's again giving the same answer, nor thinking, why the same answer again? No, why not something new? If Krishna consciousness is ever new, yeah, it's ever new as long as we are willing to enter into those dynamics. But if not, we may need to hear similar things many times, and it's okay. That's not a proof that we are a failure. That's also part of the journey. So we shouldn't feel frustrated with, oh, no, I hope Maharaj gives a new answer now, so that proves that I'm asking a smart question finally. That is nothing to do with that. So being okay with you asking those questions, but also being okay with me sometimes having to say the same thing and not feeling being original or being like, again, ever new, ever fresh, and just. But of course, we are never the same person. So even if this is the same question and the same answer, at the same time, it's never the same. So we hopefully will be receiving and hearing from slightly new place, and that will complement the previous same answer that was received from another place, and eventually we may be able to cover up all the bases by receiving the same answer. And finally, we may get like an epiphany or whatever we need and grow and transform, which is already taking place at every moment. I'm not saying finally you got it. In one sense, we never got it. You can always get it more and more. Right? So, thank you. I appreciate that as well. So yeah, Rasangi, we leave yours for next week, if that's fine. Thank you for your gentle allowance of Trivikram's question. So we'll stop here today. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Sri Harinam Prabhu ki jai, Satsang ki jai.